What's going on, everybody? This is Derek Grant, aka DG from DG Mindset, and today we are going to talk about detachment and how we detach from life so we can start living a life of peace, of fulfillment, of joy. Go ahead and make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe if this stumbled across your feed. Make sure you hit that bell so you know when we drop a new video to help you along your journey. So people often ask me, why can't I get over this person? This person broke up with me, they cheated on me, they left me, I can't get over them. It's because you're attached. The opposite of that is what we refer to as detachment. So the first thing we have to understand, you will always be attached to something as long as you are unconsciously living through the ego. The ego develops attachment. So if we understand this, the ego seeks attachment. And here's why. Because through attachment, the ego creates an identity. And through its identity, it is surviving. Remember what the ego's job was. It was rooted in survival. It just wants to live. It does not care if it's suffering. It doesn't care what life looks like. It just wants to attach to an identity. So a lot of times we've been programmed to live as a victim. This is our identity. A lot of times we look back on our trauma. We look back on things that have happened. We look at who left us or who did this to us. And that's the identity that we uphold. So I think back in my life when I went through the hardest thing I went through in 2019. I went through a financial hardship where I had a business partner who took everything. This became my identity. Somebody would ask me what time it is, and I would say, it's 4:44. Did you hear what happened to me? Did I tell you? This became my identity. I was moving in a victim state of consciousness. And because of that, my life was rooted in survival. And guess what? My life matched that on the physical plane. So when we start to understand that the ego is attached to something, and here's why. Whatever it's attached to, energetically, here's what it says. This is what makes me enough. So when we are attached, that's because the thing that you're attached to, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a physical thing, it could be money, it could be a car, it could be a house, whatever it is, you think that thing is going to make you enough. I have some good news and I have some bad news for you. Nothing in this physical world will ever make you enough. I'm sorry to tell you that. You can have all the money in the world, you can have the biggest house, you can have the best relationship. It will not make you enough. That's the bad news. The good news is that you were already enough. And it's your job to start getting rid of the programs, the stories that you're telling yourself that the ego had created that made you believe enoughness was out there. And this is how we start to detach. When we start to realize why we are attached. So if you look at this society we're growing up in, or that we're raised in, this society makes you think that money, status, followers, approval from others, this is what validates you. This is what makes you enough. The reality of it is, this is a one-player game. You are the one who needs to see yourself. You don't need to be seen by others. Think about if you lived on an island by yourself. There's nobody else, just you. You wouldn't care about what kind of clothes you wear. You wouldn't care about what your house looks like. You wouldn't care about any of these things that we're always attached to because you wouldn't need anybody else's approval or validation because there is nobody to approve or validate it other than you. You would be in complete peace. This is why billionaires go to get help from Buddhist monks, but Buddhist monks don't go to a billionaire for help. This is about you realizing that everything that you are seeking on the outside, that you are attached to, is really just a part of yourself that you're looking to find within. So let's write down with something, let's use money as an example. What does money represent in your life? Peace, freedom, security, whatever it represents. Here's what ends up happening. All right, let's go ahead and erase this. That way we got plenty of room. you start to realize how money works in our mind psychologically. Let's just say we got money here. All right. And money represents, in our mind, security, freedom, peace. Okay? So now, here's what the ego will do. The ego is going to develop attachment to this. This is your ego, part of my artwork, but you guys get the gist of it. This now is where it attaches its worth. But really what it's doing, it attaches its worth to this. So now it thinks, I need this in order to feel this. And this is where the attachment starts to cement itself. And now we don't even realize that our security, freedom, and peace is rooted in an external thing. So the ego develops an identity around us. And now this cord, this energetic cord, is what we refer to as attachment. It's attached to it. So meaning, once I have however much, then I'll be enough. And this is the story. This is the story that we tell ourselves. When I have this, then I can be secure, I can have freedom, and I can have peace. And here's the crazy part, you ready? We can sit here and fill it in. We can put $1 million. You're going to get to $1 million, and then you're going to say, if I can just get to 2 million, and then you'll get to 2 million, and you're going to say, if I can just get to 10, meaning it's never going to be enough. It's literally like a dog chasing its tail. You just keep running around in circle and circle and circle. How many times has this ever happened? You had a goal, and this was a big goal, and you wanted to get to the goal, and you got to it, and you're like, that's it? I don't feel fulfilled. And you're looking at the next goal. Man, if I can just do this. If I can just make 6 figures. You make 6 figures, it's no big deal. Man, if I can just make $500,000, make $500,000. It's like, and we see this happen so often. It's because we don't realize the unconscious part of our mind has attachment to this thing, and that's what we think is going to make us enough. So how do we beat the game? How do we detach? Basically, we need to realize that no physical thing is going to make you enough, and that your enoughness can only exist in one place. Enoughness exists in the present moment. Enoughness doesn't exist up there, because here's the reality of it. You don't have enough for the future. You never will. You never have. How many times do we see this with retirement? God bless their soul. I love my parents. I love them to death. But they still wonder, do we have enough for retirement? You got more money for this lifetime than you'll spend in the next 20 years. But it's constantly, do we have enough? Do we have enough? Do we have enough? Was I enough? Was I enough? Was I enough? Enoughness only exists in the present moment. And this, my friends, is a part of having an abundant mindset. It's realizing that this thing that we call the present moment, everything is supplied abundantly and exceedingly, but it's only for right now, because now was the only thing that existed. There is no future. Past is gone. The only thing that we have is right now. So do I have enough for tomorrow? No, I don't. But I also know that tomorrow doesn't actually exist outside of my own mind. It's always only now. What's going on, everybody? If you feel like these videos are helping you, but you just want a little bit more, I encourage you to go to dgmindset.com, where you'll find information on plant medicine retreats. You'll find information on the 7 Laws of Healing the Inner Child book. Also, you can join the DG Mindset community, where you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals. And every single week, we will have a power hour, live course, a live coaching with me to help you along your journey. Visit dgmindset.com, and we'll see you there. So for you, you may not have been enough in your mind in the past. Maybe you dealt with shame, you dealt with guilt, something happened that made you feel like you weren't enough. That was a story that you were telling yourself. And now we unconsciously created an identity around it. We created attachment. And we're so afraid of feeling the energy of shame that was rooted in unworthiness of not being enough, that now we're seeking things on the outside in hopes that that'll make us enough so we don't have to feel the sting, the wound of that shamefulness of not being enough in the past. So here's how we combat this. The 7 laws of healing your inner child. And your inner child has nothing to do with childhood. It's just a past version of you. This is how we start to detach. I had a true story here, right? I used to want a Lamborghini really bad. And my wife looked at me and she said, "Why do you want a Lamborghini? For what? You're not going to fit in it. You're probably going to be too tall for it. You can't drive it as fast as you want because you're probably going to get a ticket, get pulled over, maybe go to jail. They're loud." She's like, "Why in the world would you want a Lamborghini?" And you know what my response was? Because they're cool, and like when I pull up somewhere, everybody be like, "Whoa, whose car is that?" And when I said that, I realized I didn't actually want the Lamborghini. I wanted other people's validation and approval. And the reason why I wanted their validation and approval was because I did not think that I was enough. I was not validating and approving of myself. So now the ego projects outward and looks for a physical thing to attach to so it can be enough. And in this case, it's a car. But here's what it will do. It then develops fear every time it seems like that thing that it's attached to isn't going to happen. So maybe business is down. Maybe you lost some money and now it doesn't look like you're going to get that Lamborghini. What do we start to feel? Fear, anxiety, stress. Why? Because the ego had rooted its enoughness in that vehicle, in that car. So when I came to the awareness of the root cause of really why I was liking this car or why I wanted it, I was able to detach. Oh, I realized I just didn't think that I was enough. And I thought that this car would make me enough. But now that I realize that, I don't want the car. I need to be enough for myself. And now I won't need the car. And now I've just dropped it. I've detached from it. This, my friends, is how you experience detachment. So if you're in a relationship, maybe the relationship is over with. This is you. This is the person who you were with. Start to think about what they represented in your life. Maybe this person, they validated you. Maybe this person made you feel seen. They made you feel heard. You had never been seen or heard growing up. And now this person would see you, they would hear you, they would validate you. You now unconsciously will start to develop attachment to them. And now when you develop attachment to them, they become your source of validation, of being seen and being heard. Well, that's great, as long as you're with them. But the moment that they leave, the moment that they're gone, now what? Our attachment creates suffering. So now we don't have them anymore. We needed them to be seen. We needed them to be heard. That was our source of being seen and being heard and being validated. So you see how the ego develops attachment, and now we can't get over them because that was the thing that made us feel like we were enough. So your job is to realize, what do these things represent in my life? What do these relationships represent? What is this? What is my spouse? What is my partner? What are my children? What is this money? What is this house, this car, this job? My followers, what does this represent in my life? What do they provide for me? Whatever they provided in your life, whether it's security, whether it's peace, whether it's freedom, it doesn't matter what it was, being validated, being seen, being heard. They were just trying to show you what you needed to learn how to provide for yourself. So if that person is who was validating you, they're trying to tell you, hey, you need to start validating yourself. If that person that broke up with you and left, you feel like, I'm not seen, I'm not heard anymore. They actually understood me. They were actually just trying to show you that you needed to start to understand yourself a little bit better. And this is all attachment is. Attachment is when we seek the things that we actually are looking for on the inside, we put them on the outside. So now you can start to see what money represents in your life. Peace, freedom, security. That means that you need to start to produce this energy, this emotion, this mindset inside of you without the money. So seek peace without having the money. Seek to be free without having the money. And here's the paradox. When you detach from it, meaning I don't need that thing anymore to be enough, you're actually moving in the same energy, the same frequency as if you already have that thing. And this is when you will get it. The paradox is the moment that I don't need it or don't want it anymore because I'm providing that energy for myself, that's when I will start to create it in my life. So lastly, I want you to remember this. Everything on the physical plane, everything in your life represents an energy within you. It could be peace, it could be joy, it could be validation, it could be approval, it could be acceptance. Ask yourself, what does this represent for me energetically? And then whatever it was, it is your job now to produce that within yourself. And if you can't produce it in yourself, go back to your past and see, where did I develop this attachment? I started to realize in my own life, I harbored the energy of guilt. I had a story that was being told that everything was my fault. I was accountable, but I went too far into accountability. So now if it doesn't go right, it's my fault. Well, then I started to realize because of guilt, I was able to turn this into becoming a high performer or athlete. But really, it was the fear of not doing well enough so it wouldn't be my fault. I was afraid of feeling guilt. So I developed an attachment to working hard and playing hard and doing all these things. But I wasn't in peace. I didn't feel fulfilled. I'd get to the top of the mountain and be like, that's it? There's nothing more? It's because I wasn't producing it on the inside. So this is how we beat the game of life. You realize that everything that you were attached to on the outside was really just trying to show you what you needed to start producing for yourself on the inside. And when you produce it for yourself on the inside, you won't need it anymore on the outside. So I'll leave you with this metaphor, this analogy. If you don't know how to cook and you ask somebody to cook for you, that's great. You will eat as much as they cook for you. But what happens when they stop cooking? You're going to starve. But if you learn how to cook for yourself, whenever they cook for you, that will be extra. That will be bonus. As they would say in French, that will be lagniappe. But if you can cook for yourself, you don't need for them to cook for you. So even if they don't cook, even if they don't validate you, even if they don't approve of you, even if they don't see you, it's okay. Because I see myself now. If this video resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. We're here to help you along your journey. We're here to help you to detach so you can start living a life of peace, of freedom, of fulfillment, of joy. So you can start aligning with your divine nature and be all that you truly are. Thank you for joining us. You know where to find us. Make sure you hit that like and that subscribe and share this with somebody this resonates with. And we will see you next time here at DG Mindset.